I this is this is gonna happen every time now. And in fairness, like that's one of those things where a couple of you guys have been like, I'm subscribed and I know it is like that. I'm subscribed and I'm not getting any notifications about me being live. Uh and at this point I'm like, that didn't always happen to me. And now I don't know why that's happening to me. And it might just have something to do with where to, right. Okay. Ugh. There's this like underlying feeling. Hey Lorna, hey Divine Sight. There's this underlying feeling of like sorting out the background of what's going on in my YouTube world right now. It's weird because like each layer, each step, there's greater clarity. And then there's like past people involved who aren't being responsive. But I'm aware of their responsiveness when it comes to their stuff and their business. And I'm like, oh God, it just like, you sit with these feelings and you just feel the like, and that's all we can ever do ultimately is like sit with it and be with it and trust. After going live yesterday, I had a little outworking. I had to vent and share. I just share to myself, but on YouTube, unlisted. And then had some wise counsel around, like, don't just sit with it. Just, and this is actually a practice I do with the heightened intensity of energies. Is like I'll do a voice recording or a video recording, but private or unlisted, and not share necessarily anything to anyone, or share to like my nearest and dearest, well, my mom, and trust the counsel, as it were, as far as it's funny how in our own personal lives we can feel the injustice just by the way people treated us, or the way intuition can feel that people operate in their lives. And like supremacy has come up a little bit in conversation, and I guess in my beingness, the like ugliness of it, the like, and then from my learning, having been involved with some of that energy, the like ickiness of people's lying and shameful behavior, but then how that is all justified through superiority, i.e. supremacy, specifically white supremacy. But supremacy doesn't have to be a white thing. It's just egoic superiority over other. And that has never sat well with me. It doesn't. Hence sharing, writing this book for my own freedom, because it's often those energies that can trap us or enslave us, because they create a veil of illusion that's a lie, and then we more innocently or naively or what have you kind of buy into it, because you're just supposed to see the divine in everyone, and that is a beautiful thing. And yet we have this journey of life that we're pioneering, and the paradigm shift is so huge. So, hello, Matab. Hi, you all. So that brings me to the kind of topic that came through for the collective intuitions today. And it's been based on a few different conversations I've had of late, now that I'm in a city again, and I'm regularly engaging in conversation with humans, not on the internet. And also like active members of like activist groups. So I don't know if all y'all, whether you're in the United States or like I know quite a few of you all are in the United States. Hi, Christian. Uh, but in the UK, there's a group that is growing momentum called Extinction Rebellion. Do you guys have that in the United States? And Extinction Rebellion is ultimately an activist group rising and congregating for protests, essentially around that you could say like our own human extinction via global warming, 5G, all of that, right? And part of my holding space and like my awareness is again the contempt. I want to say like the contempt in our hearts, and how I can absolutely hold space and be present with such groups because it's stirring the collective consciousness, right? It's rising people into action, which is a very positive thing. One thing that I'm aware of for many people who have been on the activist protest trail or have had various layers of awakening and or an upbringing of an awakened family or whatever, there's a tiredness and oftentimes a default into hopelessness. Like people that it's almost a little bit to me, it feels sometimes like an energy of like the starving artist. Back in my past life as an actress, you meet a lot of again fairly radical. What I would often feel into is living in lack and poverty, but it's like part of the persona, which was another layer of like my awareness then of like superiority and inferiority and the paradox of lack, and how the again like the oppressive or oppression paradox, and like the lack paradox is that somebody with lots and lots of money can be just as lack filled as somebody without lots of stuff, and yet they harbor the same judgment toward each other, but it's flipped, and it ultimately comes out of fear of unity, fear of the divine, fear of light. And so we have these perpetual paradoxes within our existence, and so I'm meeting up against, not up against, but I'm starting to engage with these sort of groups, two sides of the same coin, precisely. Which is the paradox of life within the truth of being, which is what allows us actually to remain quite neutral in any given situation. And so what the biofeedback was this: those that have been on the train for a while, like those who've been awakened for a while, there's some exhaustion and a little bit of like hopelessness and like getting tired of having the conversation. And I resonate with that to a certain degree, but I'm also somebody who does the work that I do unapologetically, and also like totally within the truth of my own container, and have had enough kind of judgment placed on me to really not let it affect my beingness, and like because I can feel people's judgment within. So a lot of people play a game as well in these different circles, and it is a superiority game of like of being more awakened than other, or judging people because of the way they look or the way they dress or the way they speak. Mm. And I'm just acutely aware, and this is what brings me to this share, and why people perceive the way I've lived as like a spiritual path, which I suppose it is. It's a path of surrender, it's a path of letting go, it's a path of living in beyond the illusion of control and domination and systematic oppression and duality, where again my bleeding heart would want to serve and heal and save all the victims and all the poor people, but at the same time, in my reality, I've worked with some of the wealthiest people in the world and some of the most poor and disenfranchised, and energetically speaking, they're just humans on their own journey, i.e. law of attraction. What Sasha puts so eloquently is like our own geometric soulful externalization, like our soul's externalization is divine geometry. Whether it's suffering or joy or whether we like it or not, we all have our own karma, we all have our own energetic outpouring that we have to own and transform if we want to rise into greater clarity, greater benevolence, greater grace. And we're living in a time of paradigm shift, which those of us who res here have in essence been guided by this internal intuitive awareness, because it's not mainstream, it's not the convention, it's not what's been propagated. And so, and at the same time, I'm aware that due to like the different levels and layers of awareness within the mass collective, there's going to be these like surges of awakening energy, which activists and protesters and these groups are a part of. At the same time, if they remain in anger, if they remain in the fight energy, they actually perpetuate the system. They perpetuate the upholding of the system of control, because our ego then gets attached to this, like, I'm the fighter and I'm the right. And at the same time, I do feel that there is slowly but surely a more open-minded conversation going on, right? And within that, greater divination leadership and or compassionate leadership, walking and standing in truth and integrity, impeccably so, where it's undeniable that that the law of attraction is the truth of our creatorship based on the lives that some of us have lived, and the transformational beingness that we represent, and the energetic biofeedback that many of us can relate to and can offer an explanation to, but not deny it in the self anymore. Like, part of the last wormhole of creation for me to have gone through is just this true dropping off of the bass tones and like seeing the clear, the obvious transformation, and thus not being able to live in doubt or denial anymore, and having no desire to. So having this conversation with this, radical, and it was very bizarre just holding space in that room. At one point, I was like, we need violent revolution. I just stayed really neutral, surprisingly didn't react or anything. But to me, of course, that's not at all. That's just, again, perpetuating the same cycles of war. And yet people are harboring such contempt via their own lack of consciousness at this stage that they think that's what they want, and to me that's not my desired reality whatsoever. Change, yes, but that's why I only focus on the self, because I can only focus on the changes that I've been guided to. I don't want to control other people. That would just, again, perpetuate the same layers and levels of control and domination in the system as we know it, as we've been taught it, via our own conscious creatorship manifestation for the entirety of our human incarnations, which is only one in the here now. which is part of also the illusion of time and linearity, because there is no such thing in essence when you're anchored in the truth of your being. So, anywho, one thing that was brought in for me, go into heal all. Totally. That's all there is. And you are the all. Like you are the totality of creation. And so all there is, and that I guess that's what I'm aware of and perpetually reminding myself and showing up in this capacity and perpetually embracing more reflections in alignment with that truth of my knowing, right? And being more increasingly kind of just what my old self would perceive as kind of ruthless and shedding people, places, and things, shedding people, places, and things, like just moving and not being triggered by people's sensitivities or judgments or whatever, because I know the truth is like I'm not responsible. They're gonna just go ahead and perceive and think and feel whatever they are. I can feel sometimes they're like, and I'm just like, yeah, like I'm just doing me. I would permission you to do the same. Okay. So when this conversation was happening, I, in my, whatever, was like, well, there's just in me perpetual hope. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I would have taken myself out possibly many a time, but certainly different cruxy type moments where if I wasn't able to sustain my own sense of hope, I wouldn't be here. And so now people might perceive me as too light or airy fairy or fluffy or whatever. But I've been through enough internally and been via the pain of my own suffering cycles. I've transformed those. And so I'm not under any illusions about the disparity on the planet. I just choose to focus on the lightness and the hope of humanity and the heart of humanity, which is the point of the share, is that what I explained to this lovely comrade, brother, who's on the path and doing good work, but like going down those, which is part of the biofeedback of my own presence as well, was that violent revolution, and people just sit around and talk about it, that anger, that depth, which again, I can honestly say probably would have triggered me into submission or into like not sharing, but I don't, nothing really triggers me that hardcore anymore. Except I can still feel the darkness and sometimes just like the edges around abusers and past and lies and stuff like that. But that's okay. I'll continue to work on that. Might be a lifelong endeavor. Oh my God, MJ, get to the fucking point. So what I was saying, or what I did say at a certain point with this fellow, was like, here's the thing in my awareness when it comes to paradigm shift. Creation of the world is based in the United Kingdom. Well, hey ho, I'm right here, babe. I'm right here. In the United Kingdom, that's where I've been guided. And like the heart center of the world is literally in the area. And like the heart center is that green ray dream that I had when I was 19. Which brings me to like, so I've talked in some of the shares about my spontaneous spiritual awakenings, things that just happened in my own awareness that led me at the age of 19 to essentially have these veils. Again, I wouldn't have been able to describe it like this then. I just thought this was like a normal thing when you go to university or like you move away from home, and like everybody will, or anyone that goes to university is gonna suddenly have this awareness or think like, so sunset and just like introspection, and then this crazy cosmic dream where the beam of green came from the cosmos, hit my heart and lifted me up and then took me around the world. And like the green is the color of the heart center, the heart chakra point, and then apparently the heart chakra point of Earth is around Glastonbury, which is where I've been guided. And since I took that last leap at the end of my 33rd year to endeavor to publish the book, which all of those series of events were completely miraculous, not consciously controlled in any way, I've had this like pull to Bristol, Bath area, which is like the kind of vortexual arena of the heart center, which in a sense, the awakening is something that's happening from within the human heart field, or just human heart is having awakenings. And so what you're saying, creation of the world is based in the United Kingdom. In this extraordinary polarity, some of the darkest control domination energy, hence the British and the white supremacists, and the colonization of the world via control and domination and divide and conquer, is also in existence on this land, with the polarity of the awakening heart of humanity in Avalon and some of the but then it's like and then depending on where we're in the world, we'll have different activations. Like I think it was Sasha who said something of like the umbilical cord is Bali in Indonesia. Oh, 555. And doesn't surprise me that a lot of my own divine work, like I was guided to Bali to write the book. And you guys know, like I didn't buy my ticket to Bali thinking, I'm going to write a book in Bali. I went to meet a guy. My knight in shining armor who dumped my ass 2 weeks before getting there. But other things had happened in the meantime where I was going to write this book. So I was like, holy shit, I've got 30 days in Bali to write this book that I had written. I spent the last 2.5 years writing the manuscript. And then, just miraculous. And the fact that it's so beyond my own conscious control is more testament to like the truth and letting the heart lead versus trying to like, I know how to do life. I'm an important person because I'm white and I'm privileged. So you should bow to me. Okay. It's not true. Yeah, just let it, and really like the heart of unity and compassion. And that's with the green ray dream that guided me to England, before I knew any of this shit around like the heart center of it, the heart chakra of humanities in Glastonbury. They didn't know that. I was just like, I'll go to England. They speak English there, and that should and again, I'm pretty sure way back when there was a boy that I met that I quite fancied, and he was off to England. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to England too. It never worked out. Yeah, so that's something else I'm very, that's a polarity of, I guess, another day, another topic around just how heavy duty our Hollywood program is around like finding the relationship, plus the twin flame stuff. And Rochelle, or one of you, sent a funny message around like the twin blame game. It's like when your twin doesn't behave how you want them to or doesn't show up, it's like we just go right back into blame and attack, right? Rather than the wholeness of self in conscious, co-creative, and reflective expansion, and I can honestly say that a lot of the patterns that I'm out working in the here now are becoming more harmonious due to the kind of risen level of mutual respect and understanding. It's still not comfortable necessarily, but like it is shifting for sure. I keep having, there's definitely some like, whew, it's like it's a black gooey type energy coming out. It's contempt. Like it might be some weird psychic attack that's happening right now, or over these last few days, because I'm reclaiming something that belongs to me, and I can feel this like shameful lying and like, and also hatred and contempt, which is just. From a white man. Yeah, I was having a convo with a friend about how the white man mentality is like the absence of color spectrum in the soul. Anyone can be the white man. Oh, yes, there it is. That's supremacy. That's precisely. That's supremacy and or superiority. And any of us in any placement, in any function can be that. and hence where I've talked about that weird energy of distortion in quote unquote spiritual communities, where I'm just picking up and feeling domination and control from for a while I was calling it the false matriarch, which is an egoic spin. It's a feeding off of power, because to a certain degree it feels good. Someone like me, for whatever reason, in my feeling space, though, that just never authentically felt good because in the divinity and unity, my beingness felt that was actually so much more powerful in truth than the illusion of control and or power, that I could never sustain it. It never really, I was just like, ugh, I don't want, hence like even for a while in the yoga industry, people are like, you should do more TTs, you should train trainers, there's a lot of money in it, and da, da, da. And I'm like, I don't. My heart is asking me to go somewhere else, and I don't even know, and I still don't know. Oh yeah, I know the topic of conversation here today. So I'm talking to this person that's reflecting back or exhibiting those layers of anger around the system and bullshit, and everyone just talks about it, nobody takes action. I'm like, well, we're two people taking action. I reflected that back to him. I was like, you and I are behaving and living in accordance with our divinity. So what are you saying? Who are you talking about, right? Hence the contempt toward our brothers and sisters who are maybe not as quasi awakened, and yet still we must own that as a projection of self, that we're still living in this, we're still outworking our own divisions, our own projections of those people and us. And I get that sometimes with the biofeedback of third party discussion of like, oh, people think it's so weird, or I don't even know that anymore. It's through people saying that to me, and I'm like, oh, I only have these kinds of conversations ultimately, and have done for years. And yet I'm increasingly aware of living in my own reality, which I love, which I'm enjoy with, in a state of sort of grace and awe with, and that's, I think, a really lovely thing as a human. And the body's healthy and the body feels good, and there's peace and beauty and all of these things, and so I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back to the other, where I'm like crippled by just, what the fuck is this shit? Like, what is life? Now I'm like, and sometimes still a bit like, but not nearly as much, I must say. So what I said to this fellow human, and it was a glorious gift, because this dropped in at some point recently in my awareness, for my own benevolent, like for my own sort of safekeeping, you could say. I must have got swept up in a storyline that started to pull me out of center, and then I remembered about my own awakenings. Pardon me, you guys, while I sip some juice mixed with sparkling water. So I'm so privileged, aren't I? Look, coffee. I've got fucking watermelon in the fridge. I've got coffee on the go. I've got juice and sparkles. I'm like, life just doesn't get more benevolent than that. I got a new dress from a charity shop. The color wine, which goes just beautifully with it. And OMG, could MJ get to the effing point? Because as soon as I explain this, I can wrap it up. It's the share. The key word here, of course, is spontaneous. When I was a 19-year-old chica thinking she knew it all and was going to be a famous actress after leaving her hometown and going to the big city of Vancouver, Still with this sort of inner insight and a desire to have a voice, but live well on the planet like all the celebrities do. I experienced what I now know are spiritual awakenings, but nothing in me desired that or projected that or tried to control that or consciously knew what the F was going on. It just happened to me. It just happened through a series of events and dreams that I call the cosmic dreams. And I assumed for many, many years that that was just normal. Just like when I got into yoga, I assumed that everyone in the yoga world wanted the same that I wanted, or was in yoga for the same reasons, or was teaching and practicing yoga and had the same depth of understanding that I had. I just assumed. And all these years later, this is me doing what I'm being guided to do in a huge response and or timeline outworking from those spontaneous awakenings that happened. Okay, yeah, I can own it. As far as thus we could talk about my higher self, my soul. It was part of my own soul's destiny. And I'm here to testify and live the truth and explain the truth to you, that there were many a time where I lived in denial of spirit, and I can honestly say I weren't nowhere near as happy. And I might have appeared to have more stuff. I might have lived in a nicer apartment. I might have had a boyfriend. I might have, you know, still been projecting this idea of success, but inside myself and behind closed doors and within my own awareness, I was depressed and sad and desperately trying to reclaim that connectivity that I brushed up against during those times of awakenings. So spontaneous awakenings happen to us. And in my awareness, what we're really on the brink of is a mass spontaneous awakening. Now that enough souls, are a container of authenticity. So there's enough humans now that can hold space for this occurrence, because it's written in our own DNA, just like it's written in the planetary alignments or written in the stars. We wouldn't be here having the conversation if it weren't the case, because those of us who had the early awakenings, how do we all know all that? Like, I feel the same. Y'all are spread around the world, and yet we're having a conversation like we're best friends and we know exactly what each other is talking about, but we've never even, some of us, spoken. And yet a lot of us will have a very similar perspective, because what I share here is a reflection of energetic and energetic sort of encounters that y'all have had as well in your human vessel experience. Like over the years, talking about this stuff and being laughed at, or talking about this stuff and having people even attack you. Who do you think you are? How dare you? I have people say stuff like that. Who do you think you are? Just because I was like, I just want to save the world. I just want people to love each other. Who the fuck do you think you are? You're talking crazy talk. And then my little empath would be like, hee! Hence a life that's fairly reclusive and solitary. And then again, getting into the yoga community and having yoga studio owners tell me that I should just keep it to the meditation. Like, just talk about meditation. Don't talk about that shit you talk about on YouTube. That was the beginning of the end for me, in that context, in that constructed reality, in my privileged world. No, thank you very much. I'll speak what I want to speak. I'll say what I want to say. I'll stand in my truth, and I'll permission every single human soul to do the same. I don't want to follow traditions of the past anymore. I want people to be here now and embrace their freedom, embrace their truth. It's like a shift in balance is occurring right now, for sure, for sure, for sure. I feel like that came up. That came up in my Instagram reading. It was all. Um, it was like there's a sense of defensiveness, but I also sometimes in intuition, I'm feeling like there's a discernment around defensiveness that we must, because people would often say you're being resistant or da da da, and I'm like, I see it more as this fierce love, like this divine just being like, no, thou shalt not pass it, and it's not resistant, and it's just about stability. It's about keeping your integral balance and not letting other people throw you off like they once would have. That's helping me right now work out this situation that I'm dealing with. Yeah. Ugh. It's like letting the light of your being like smash through any of that contempt ultimately. Oh, thanks, Christian. See, when you say things like that, it makes me feel really, really good, because it's empowering my path to freedom as far as like financially being able to survive and thrive, because I desire that for everyone, and ultimately that we completely rise above economy in that form of currency of disempowerment, like Kurt would say. So we transform the debt-based economy into a resource-based economy, so we all get to live well. We all get to live in freedom, right? Never would be my desire to have lots of money to lord over people and then teach people how to make lots of money so they too can be a free human. No. However, I am definitely at that point in my life where I'm ready. I desire to have more than enough so that I can continue on my new paradigm path and give more. Ultimately, that has a lot to do with it. Give more to the people that I want to give to, and also create the headquarters, the Ultra Love headquarters. For now, 2 sites. So a landlocked site, probably again in this heart-centered area that I've been guided to, and then a place in the city, so that and how, like, sometimes I think people forget this, but like my mom got deported, and my mom's my only family. I have like a really small family unit, which is part of my weird freedom piece of like not feeling a part of anything ultimately. But both my parents are adopted. My dad would never talk about it. And then like my sister kind of just like bullied me as a kid and still does. There's again a lot of different emotions there. But and like me being guided to the UK when I was 20, and then my sister and brother-in-law have been to visit me once in the last 10 years, and once. My dad has never been to visit me, and my mom's been to visit me regularly. She's my really like kind of like the only tight family member I have, and she got deported a couple years ago. And I can feel a little bit of emotion coming in. And that's part of, I guess, for me, sometimes I have these like wake ups where I'm doing all this stuff for people for nothing, for no financial kickback or no da da da. And I'm supporting them in doing this, and I'm supporting them in doing that, and I'm helping them create lucrative businesses for themselves, and somehow I ended up feeling indebted to them. And then I suddenly go, wait, they have family all around them, and friends, and property, and money, and gosh, I'm just here wanting to pioneer business so that I can bring my mom back, because I love her, and she's a really good friend of mine as well, because she's like us. She's also in her fucking late 50s and 60s, totally transformed her life. Christian. Ugh. And like, I'm not being dramatic, but I'm like, oh. It's kind of traumatizing to have a family member taken away from you. Um, Now there's some movement there because there's a journalist who's bought our story and is publishing it in the Scottish Record. Um, because it's all been like unfair, obviously. Like it was all in my awareness anyway, just power trip, target driven, border control people wanting to make an example of a white privileged woman, apparently. Even though, like, again, mom is like us, like apparently privileged and obviously like with her own story and all that kind of stuff, but like she's an intuitive, and so most of her life she just was confused about why she had so much, and everyone was telling her she has to do it this way and do it that way. Meanwhile, she was just fucking depressed because she's like, why are there so many fucking issues in the world, you know? To my studio, so you feel me, right? Yeah. I mean, I I saw my sister, so it's 2019, so 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 and a bit years ago, I published the book, and then within that time frame, so 2 years ago, around summer 2017, I published the Audible, and then I saw my sis in May for a family wedding, which I went back for, and she said, "Oh, you should have an audiobook. That way more people like me will be able to read because I don't read books anymore." And I was like, like I have an Audible book. I published it 2 years ago. It's been out. It's one of the best sellers. Um, so yeah, those disparities are becoming more apparent, which is part of my permissioning myself to let go of having to please these people who clearly don't feel any sense of wanting to please me or support me, except for a way that I guess makes them feel good. Or I've never actually spoken so openly. I can really feel this like layer, but then it's not like they watch any of this stuff anyway. It's not like they align with it, you know. And in the in the truth of it, I it's all love, you know. It was all um it's all love, yeah. um your bro hasn't been, dude. I forget sometimes as well, like um there's all this world outside of like the yoga stuff, and there's a lot of people just really not into it, you know. Which is fair. um and you get along and share in whatever, whatever capacity. Oh, Christian, I feel you. I'm feeling it right now. And I guess maybe that's been part of the journey, and like the mish for me with the compassionate heart piece was like all this stuff about immigration and borders, and I never understood it. Again, 19 years old, have these fucking spontaneous spiritual awakenings, and you see through the constructed reality. You're like, well, the borders aren't actually real. Like, we just created them. Or like, the economy isn't real. We created the economy. Like, having that understanding, and the unity piece was the deepest anchor, I would say, for my path, was just looking at a sunset and oh. I started to cry like this. Basically, I was just watching a sunset, and it made me cry because like there was just this instantaneous visceral moment where I knew I was that. Like, I was one with that beauty that I was seeing. Yeah. And that was part of that awakening of the journey. Was I'm like, oh my god, humans, we should all feel this greatness, this connection with life. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And then I proceeded to just stumble and fall and get knocked down a lot, and often told that all this sensitivity was needed to just shut it down, you know? And then when I tried to shut it down, that's when all the suffering patterns came in, hence the book. This is where like my journey has sort of offered insight via the book that I wrote, was that it was my awareness that whenever I shut down my intuitive connection, it led me down these patterns that became toxic, which got more and more toxic and worse until we reconnect. And like our only true joy and happiness and freedom is our intuitive connection. And in this great awakening that I'm feeling into, this paradigm shift, which is spontaneous for the masses, it's like, that's okay, we've been through it. You know, individually. It's true. And hence we have these connections that help to amplify and, I want to say, beautify our reality with polarity and depth and great joy, you know. And I often, as I continue to grow, I see people chasing their tail or chasing instantaneous pleasure, which I get because I've been there. And then I realize, oh yeah, more people will awaken, and then they'll start to become tired of those patterns, right? And then, oh God, it's so beautiful because we don't have to do anything. Like we just are. We just are, and I can feel the truth of it. Hell's not so scary. It's so true. It's so true. But that's, you know, that I would say is where truth and authenticity and integrity is really born from. It's walking through the gates of our own fiery fire, knowing that that's what we're doing in that moment, however it looks, where I call it the emotional storms, where I could be in the depth of this alchemy, where other people, like Sasha described a lot of his experience. And I don't know if it's a masculine thing or it's just very unique, but like for him, it was much more tangible in the physical. So seeing extraterrestrials or seeing fearful beings coming at him, going to kill him, and he had to stand down that truth of his own projected illusion. Where my projected illusion has been a biofeedback for the hell within me that I transform in the light of my awareness via the emotional storms. So I'm not someone who externalizes or sees monsters or angels or spirits in that way. It's all contained within, and then as I expand the within field, there's a sense of the sheaths and the layers of a co-creative, multidimensional, physicalized reality through God source, you know, through the divinity that we are. Oh, so I'm going to start wrapping up, you guys. I thank you so much for being here. I feel really happy to be back doing the live shares and like really blessed to have this community. Divine Sight. So these cards are a gift from Divine Sight. We're both working with the medicine cards. And I've just sent you something too. So, and you'll know this already, but the jaguar came up, and I thought, when I was reading the description, I thought this is so relevant to like the planetary. Hi, Colin. How are you, my friend? Yeah, and Divine Sight recently had a dream. I think it was about a jaguar. It was in the dream, right? Thank you, Matab. Pardon me, you guys. As one of you who's not here because you're in halls, as Scott would say, it's a coffee burp. I don't know if it's coffee or my juice with sparkles. This could be any number of things, but hey ho. Hi, Safawi. I'm good, my friend. I'm actually was thinking of Indonesia today, and I really am looking forward to. I'm hearing like come home. I'm really looking forward to coming back. And to see you guys and see the family and make a huge break in Ultra Love so that I can support you guys more. Safawi and his community in Lombok were affected in the earthquake, and I raised money with All to Love. But it's as a new paradigm business, it's my absolute commitment that All to Love can provide, because it's not like this is food and shelter and basic access, right? But All to Love as a new paradigm business could put money aside every month or every year for Safawi and his community in Lombok, that big family. And then all of us can go hang out in Lombok for a bit and eat with Safawi and the gang, because his wife makes beautiful. Look, my food. My mouth is watering. My mouth is watering when I think of the coffee that I consume in Lombok and the food that Safawi's wife and community make. It is all very delicious and it's abundant. So our money goes a long way there, and can absolutely support families who could just use some support without any entanglements. Anyway, oh, hello, Jill. Thank you. Okay, so Jaguar is like all about our impeccability and integrity. And right now, with the month of September and 21, and the number 3, and I think so is 2019 3? How is that possible? 3, 2. Wait, 3 and 9 is 12, right? And then that would make it 3. Anywho, 3 is all about personal truth, and then authenticity. And because truth is authenticity, there's no separation, right? Anything separating us in our consciousness is divide and conquer. You're spirit, no, you're a spiritual being. No, you're political. No, you're physical. No, you're. And so Jaguar is very much about, like, to me anyway, reconnecting to the great spirit and like walking in that integral truth, which is walking in divine right action, which is in service to the whole, rather than the fragmented parts. And then, and then this was quite an interesting piece around these mass awakenings, was that I realized that with the Jaguar medicine, it's like karma's getting served. And this is just par for the course, is that people who have been acting out of accordance with divine law, disconnected from their integrity, their karma is going to get served. The Jaguar is going to come for them. And they're also going to have to walk through the gates of their own fiery hell and allow the Jaguar to devour their greed and corruption, right? So, it's all of that kind of intensity. So the Jaguar just felt like, I feel like for a lot of us in the new paradigm community who've been through a lot on the shadows and the fringes, who truly do stand for the oppressed and, the orphans of the world, and the people who've been disenfranchised and stuff like that, like, there is divine reward coming in for us as mass spiritual awakening begins to happen, and it's happening now. And so on the polarity spectrum, there's bound to be some chaos and violence and trauma being purged via the collective in our brothers and sisters. So thank goodness we have each other, Oh, interesting. So yeah, thank goodness that we have each other to kind of hold hands and stay grounded and support each other, in all of these different ways. And so clearly the Jaguar energy is representative right now of the collective insights and the energies coming through. Because it's that the truth shall set you free. This is the Christ, coming through the collective now. So enjoy your Jaguar medicine, my authentic, loving friends and community. And I'll share the book as well, just so you guys can see if you randomly want to purchase yourself some medicine cards. Interesting learning, because I then looked up the spider, because I told you yesterday a spider was on me, and I felt it in the morning. And so I obviously had to look up like the spider and weaving the spider's web and the femininity of creation. And it really felt quite profound to me, as far as like, oh, wow, what have I been creating? Paradigm shift. But I'm ready. Boom, bring it. And then this is my book. If you want to buy it, feel free to do so. I appreciate your guys' purchases. Or if you're wanting to book an intuitive reading, feel free to do so. Or if you want to come to Morocco, I'm dropping the price, because I've only got one booking. So it means I'd have to potentially cancel and like lose a substantial amount of money that I don't have right now, or drop the price big time and just see if I can get more people to come, which is my endeavor, because I'm not co-hosting anymore either. So yeah, big changes, sort of lots has happened. So yeah, the price for Morocco for the 5 days is now only $499, and $599 if you want your own room. But $499 is up for grabs for people. So spread the word and buy some Alta Love products to keep it all going. I have absolute faith. That it shall. There's no real doubt in my heart, because I've come too far, and like the Holy Grail. I just kept when I was driving to Calais after the intense drive from South Portugal. My intuition just kept saying, Holy Grail, Holy Grail. And I was like crying, because I was seeing the sea, and I was having all this intense download around like, I'm home. I'm in home. And then Holy Grail. And then I just looked up Holy Grail, and it just means like you've done something rather profound and divine and epic. And I was like, well, that's for sure. And it's kind of just eased me around anything, like needing anything at all. I'm like, you're the manifested representation of truth, so it's all good. Yes, Christian, divine site is quite correct. October 8th to 12th. And I randomly recently, I think one of you, I think Jamie might have seen it, but like I posted on the Morocco event on Facebook and just blatantly put like past joints, not judgment, because there's nice hashish in Morocco, and it's just like a really nice place. The land in Morocco, I feel that's why I was guided there, because I've done 3 retreats. This will be my 4th. And because you guys know, like everything I do is just guided for miraculous reason. And I couldn't have chosen better ultimately for myself and the people, the constellations who have come together for these Morocco retreats. And it's super chill. Yoga with me every morning, surfing every day, and then some chats and meditation in the evening. Yes, that meme saved my sanity. So yeah, and it could be pretty last minute, you guys. I'm not going to be, corporate about any of this. Like, maybe just keep an eye on, what do I want to say? On tickets, on flights, because you guys are coming from kind of far. So you could just peruse and see if you can find a cheap deal, and then make some deposits or payments from Morocco. And then just between us, even though this is obviously public, but between us, I'm there October 5th to 15th. So again, for some of you coming from further, obviously I'm only going to really hold myself to teaching and holding space from the 8th to the 12th. But if some of you who are coming further want to come out for a longer period of time, I'll be there from the 5th to the 10th, or the 5th to the 15th, because I want a holiday. And I know what Morocco is like, so I am really looking forward to having peaceful beach time and surf time. And if any of you guys do come, maybe I can interview you for Unplug for Freedom. So I can finish the Be the Change online courses. Oh, oh, it's like I need to have my mid-morning nap now, my early morning nap. But I'm sleeping better, which is a blessing for sure. All right, you guys. Big hugs. Yeah. Virtual hugs. Virtual hugs. I love you guys loads. Um, I'll feel you and see you in the ether, and just have a beautiful sleep and a wonderful day wherever you are. Love you. Bye.